Welcome to Off the Boards with Josh and Ryan. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Welcome back, everybody. Josh here with Off the Boards. Today we're going to discuss the state of the Toronto Maple Leafs, how we got here, and where we really go from here. Let's talk about it. I've been a fan of this team basically as long as I've been alive. I grew up watching this team when they sucked. I remember exactly where I was when we won the draft lottery to get Matthews. I remember watching the draft that night thinking that everything was going to just work itself out and we were going to be good. And lo and behold, the last 10 years have showed that while we are a fantastic regular season team, we cannot pull it off in the playoffs with where we are. And if this year showed us anything, it's that we're not even a good regular season team anymore. Now, a lot of people are going to blame injuries and say, the Leafs were just hurt this year, and if they were healthy, they would have done better. And, if we were healthy, would we have done better? Probably, but I don't think we can blame the entire season on just us being hurt. There was a lot of underlying issues we knew going into this team. I mean, I didn't think we'd be this bad, but obviously I thought there would still be some hiccups with the team. Losing Marner last summer for Nicholas Waugh, isn't really great. If we look at Brad Treliving's tenure, came in, a couple weeks before the draft, right before Mitch Marner's no-trade clause kicked in, and he refused to trade Marner then because he said that he was basically too new and didn't want to do it. Well, hindsight's always 20/20. I'm sure everyone wishes that he actually did make that trade. I know that I do. I know that on the podcast, for any people who watch the podcast, I usually hate on Mitch. Mitch is a good person. I've always said that I don't feel like the death threats and stuff that he was getting was warranted. I don't think that's ever warranted. Let me just say that. It's unfortunate that the situation broke down like it did, but Mitch and this Leaf squad proved one thing over the 10 years or 9 years they made the playoffs consistently. We didn't have the pieces to get it done, and our best players in games 5, 6, and 7 always shrunk. So, good for Mitch, I guess, playing in what I would consider a smaller hockey market now, being able to score his first ever playoff hat trick. I wish he did it in a Leafs jersey, but it is what it is. But the trade obviously wasn't good. We were able to turn Nicholas Waugh into a first and a third, so we basically traded Mitch Marner for a first and a third from a good playoff team. Not ideal, obviously. Everyone, including me, would have wished for better than that. So it's one of those things where it's like, that obviously sucks, but like I said, hindsight's always going to be 20/20, and we can't really just ultimately dwell on Mitch. At the end of the season, I think I felt like most Leaf fans when I was like, man, we're so screwed. We don't have prospects. The prospect pool isn't deep. Coaching is a mess. Management is confusing. Keith Pelly's tenure so far has not been impressive to me, and I'm sure a lot of Leaf fans feel the same way. When you come out and you say that we're not just here to sell jerseys, and then when we play the Golden Knights, you're selling a signed Mitch Marner jersey when you could have just given it away and donated the money to charity anyway, it's not a good look. Like, we struggled mightily this year. Obviously, you can blame it on roster construction. I mean, that's what I blame it on. Roster construction and coaching. The core four era, it didn't work, and we replaced Mitch Marner with guys like Dakota Joshua, Matthias Michelli, Nicholas Waugh. If we thought that we were just going to get the production from those three guys to do exactly what Mitch did, we are sorely mistaken, and it's unfortunate. Today, June 6, 2026, John Chaika is the GM. We still don't have a coach. We aren't allowed to have a president of hockey operations anymore because of some dumb Rogers rule, which I think is just stupid, and I'm sure a lot of fans feel the same way. But we do have the first overall pick, and I remember where I was when we won the draft lottery, and all I could do was laugh. I was like, the hockey gods are, for some reason, granting us this opportunity again 10 years after we did it the last time in Buffalo again? I think the answer is Gavin McKenna. I don't think he solves every single issue we have. I think there's a million problems with this team. I don't think one more high caliber skill player is going to fix things. Obviously, our defensive core is a mess. If we look at that, we have some guys that, in my opinion, contracts don't look the best. Chris Tanev's contract doesn't look really good. I know that he was hurt for a majority of this season, but if Chris Tanev is the difference between your team making the playoffs and being a bottom 5 team in the league, that's not good, you know? Like, I don't know. Like, the Leafs haven't had a top caliber defenseman since Borja Salming. You know, it's atrocious. We've had so much high-end talent when it comes to forwards on the team, and we've never been able to figure out defensive players. And, you know, we drafted Luke Shen really high. We drafted Morgan Rielly pretty high in the draft. And not saying Morgan really hasn't worked out. I mean, he's the longest tenured guy, but even at this point, I think that he needs to waive his no-trade clause and just get off the team. I mean, in the nicest way. Like, the group of guys that have been running this, I feel like a lot of them are just dejected, and they probably, it's valid to feel that way. Like, the team has been unsuccessful in the playoffs every year, and the fan base is, I understand that people are like, oh, it's the fans, we're difficult to deal with. Look, if you had gotten to the third round, if any of these years the Leafs made it out of the second round and into the third round, and you didn't even win, those guys would probably never have to do anything in Toronto again. Like, they would be royalty because we're that starved for success. Like, I understand people are like, oh, the Leafs haven't won in a long time. It's like, yeah, we know. Like, I don't know what you want us to do about that. Like, we keep thinking that we have guys that can help us win, and then it just never seems to work in the end. So it gets frustrating as a fan trying to sit back and watch this all, you know? Over the 10 years, though, like I said, we were a fantastic regular season team. We went 440, 250, and 92. We had continuous 100-point seasons. We peaked at 108 points, and we won the division title. And then everything just went bad. You know, like, I remember watching the playoff series last year and going, man, what an utter mess. Like, that round against Florida. It went from everything was great to everything was horrible so quickly. Like, I think it was game 5. We got smoked, and I was like, oh, we are so screwed. And then we went into game 6, and we were a completely different team. We played this style of hockey that Florida apparently couldn't keep up with, and we looked great. And then we went into game 7, and we did the same shit that we did in game 5. And it wasn't even close. Like, this team never ceases to amaze me with the new ways they find to rip my heart out and just make me sad. Like, did I think that the Leafs would be as bad as they were this year? No, and I don't think a lot of people did, but it's just like we sucked. Like, this year, we sucked. You know, we let in 295 goals. That's the worst the Leafs have done since 1991. And we let up a league-high 2,660 shots. Defensively, we were a mess. And what's crazy is we had Craig Berube, who was a defensive head coach, in my opinion, played Matthews like a second-line checking center for some reason when he's a perennial 40-goal scorer. At this point, I'd love to say he's a perennial 50 guy, but the last couple of years have not really made me feel very good about his production. I love Austin. I hope Austin is a career Toronto Maple Leaf. But again, he is coming off of a grade 3 MCL tear. Thanks, Radko Gudas. God, I hate that guy so much. So I don't know. When he comes back next year, is he the same player? I mean, I'd like to think so. I'd like to think that under a new system and a new coach, he can find that scoring touch again. From what it seems like from the outside, I mean, a lot of Leaf fans are clamoring for the Leafs to hire another, young coach that's more of an offensive guy, kind of like Sheldon Keefe, but not Sheldon Keefe, I guess. Like, there is a rumor for a couple weeks that the Leafs are trying to get David Carl, the head coach for the Denver team in the NCAA. But that didn't seem to work very well. He said that he just doesn't want to leave the team at this point in time, which is fine. Right now, it feels like the rumors are Patrick Waugh and Laviolette. I mean, if they go after those guys, like, what are we doing? Like, what was the point of getting rid of Craig if we're just going to bring those guys in? Like, I don't know what the Leafs need at head coach, but if we're just going to bring in another aging guy who seems to have an issue with rookies and young players, and, you know, in the case of Waugh, has one good season and then falls off a cliff for whatever reason when it comes to his ability to coach, like, I just don't know what we're doing. Like, in a perfect scenario, yeah, there's probably a unicorn somewhere out there that the Leafs could go with. I mean, I keep hearing rumors that we could go with the Marlies head coach. I think you can only do that if he wins the Calder this year, and there's no guarantee that he's going to be able to do that. But if he wins the Calder, then yeah, I think I'd feel more confident giving him a chance. But, you know, he's led a lot of upsets through the first 3 rounds. I believe the Leafs weren't the Marlies weren't the favorite in any of those rounds. And right now, I believe they're up 3-1 on the Baby Pens. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. You know, over those years where we were quote unquote good team, good regular season team, the Leafs made a lot of, I don't want to say mistakes, but they did the same thing that a lot of playoff teams do, right? At the deadline, you trade away your first round picks and, you know, prospects to bring in guys that you think are going to be able to help you win the cup in that year. Some of the most notable ones are, you know, we brought in guys like Ryan O'Reilly and Noel Acciari. That was kind of like the all-in move, in my opinion. That was one of the ones that I remember when it happened. I was like, we're so in. Like, this is crazy. Like, this is so good for us. But unfortunately, that didn't work out, and they ended up walking basically that summer. And, you know, we lost guys. Like, we've lost a lot of guys along the way. Like Zach Hyman, Tyler Bertuzzi, Michael Bunting. Like, so many guys that I go, man, like, you know, like Matthew Knies has kind of fallen into the role of those guys now. But, you know, we almost traded Matthew Knies at the deadline this year to the Habs. And it's like, what are we doing? You're going to trade a guy like Matthew Knies to an in-division rival, arguably your biggest rival. Well, I guess Boston is probably for the Leafs, but, like, you know, every time the Leafs play the Habs, you obviously want to see the Leafs win. And you're going to give the team a team that already has Slavkovsky, you're going to give them Knies? So you're going to have to play against Slav and Knies every time you play them? Like, what are we doing? That would have been the dumbest decision we could have made at the time. I don't care that we get 2 firsts and 2, you know, prospects for him. Like, it's just, that's such a mess of a deal. And I mean, you know, there still is rumors floating around right now that a lot of teams are calling on Knies. And it's like, yeah, of course they would, because Chaik has said that nothing is really off the table right now. But I don't think with good conscience you can make that trade and trade him away, you know? Like last year, Brad brings in Brandon Carlo for Fraser Mitten and a first. If we did not win the lottery, we probably were going to give the pick to Boston. We had to stay in the top 5. Winning puts us at 1. We stay in. If we held our position, we would have held the pick. But thankfully, you know, we went all the way up and won it anyway. But it's just, that trade, obviously, at the time, a lot of us were happy. A massive right-handed shot defenseman who we thought was going to be able to help us. And Brandon Carlo has looked awful. Like, let's call it what it is. He's looked awful. And what frustrates me as a Leaf fan is we're going to trade him away, and he's going to go somewhere and look great again. And we're probably going to have to give up an asset to get rid of him. And it's just, you know, it's frustrating. Like the Scott Laughton deal. We gave a first to Nikita Grabankin to Philly. And it's like, okay, I guess. And then we lose Scott Laughton for what turned into a second because LA ended up making the playoffs. But it's like, you know, I mean, if we bring back Scott Laughton this summer, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that. And maybe it makes it look a little bit better and not so bad. But at the same time, it's like I don't know. Like, I understand that at the time, a lot of the deals that we were making looked good on paper. but none of them worked out. And it's like, if the Leafs had won a cup in any of these years, yeah, all would have been forgiven, and every single one of those guys would have probably had a statue outside of the arena. But I don't know. I mean, the Austin Matthews reality right now is his contract. He's got 1 year left after this year. And there's no certainty that he's going to stay. I mean, if the Leafs suck again this year, which I don't think we're trying to suck this year, we're not really giving him a lot of incentive to stay, but you can't lose him for nothing. Like, the Leafs asset management over this time period of being good is horrible. We've lost so many good players just to signings because we don't have the money because of the core four signings at the time and COVID and the cap not rising. The cap is exponentially growing now quite fast. So it's like, okay, you can make those big contracts and not have them look as bad, but I mean, you're going to screw yourself over here, I think. Like, we can't just go out and make nothing signings. Like, they actually have to be guys that we think can help us. Yesterday, Chaika did come out and say that Matthews is a happy captain who is fiercely proud to wear the C and is fully good with winning under a new regime. But the word winning there is the high point. If you don't win, you're not going to keep the guy. You got to keep him happy, and you got to win to keep him happy. So I don't know. I mean, I think ultimately right now, Matthews should be a big part of who we do sign as a head coach, because he needs to be happy playing for that guy. Like, look at McDavid. McDavid basically gets to hand pick his head coach every time they bring one in, and he's had so many. He's had so many coaches over his tenure, and people go, "Oh, well, you can't just keep giving new coaches to Matthews." It's like, why? It feels like McDavid gets a new head coach every year, but I don't know. If we look at the head coaching, candidates, I mean, according to the internet, which, I mean, I think there's notable reporting that's gone into this. I think it was Daily Faceoff posted yesterday saying that the Leafs have vetted 55 coaching candidates. That is so many people. 20 of them had first round interviews, and I don't know necessarily yet how many have come through the second, but I mean, you got to find someone young, preferably, and statistically, it shouldn't be someone who's already won a Stanley Cup, because I believe there's only 3 coaches in history that have been able to go back and do it again with another team. So I don't know. You need to do something. You can't just bring in this old style anymore. Like, you need a young mind, someone who is offensively minded, who can help guys like Matthews and Nylander and Easton Cowan and Gavin McKenna, hopefully, figure out, how to get that scoring touch back, and so we don't have the worst goal difference in the league again. And defensively, I mean, my God, like, part of me is like, you need to make a trade this summer to solidify the blue line, but it's like, okay, well, what do you give up? Like, maybe someone's available in free agency, but, you don't want to overpay for an aging vet if you don't have to. And when it comes into Gavin McKenna, Chaika did go to Whitehorse to meet with him and his family. To me, that kind of shows that we're hopefully leaning towards that. I mean, he said that everything is on the table. I don't think the Leafs are going to trade the pick. I really don't think that's the right decision. Gavin McKenna destroyed the WHL last year. Just absolutely mauled it, and then went to the NCAA, struggled in the first half, and then had ended the season with 51 points in 35 games. Like, he broke records as a 17-year-old true freshman this year. I mean, like, look, Stenberg is going to be a good player, but I don't think his ceiling is as high as McKenna's. I think you have to go with the guy in this situation who has the potential to change your franchise. And, I don't think McKenna's going to come in and have an 100-point season in the NHL, but I think he'll have a 60-point season, and I think that he'll have like 40 assists, and hopefully Matthews can get back to scoring, and we can find out exactly what's been going on, really. But I don't know. I'm hoping that our scouting director is locked in on what he's going to do here, and we're going to be looking at hopefully a good draft, a good pool of prospects this year, because our cupboards, yeah, I know we have the picks now, but when it comes to prospects in general, our cupboards are pretty bare. So we need more than just one forward. Like, we need a few defensemen, and the problem with defensemen in the NHL is they take a long time to, grow into the players they are in the league. Not a lot of good defensemen, unless your name is Matthew Schaefer, come in at 18 years old and light up the league. So people are like, we could go with Chase Reed, and it's like, Chase is going to be a good defenseman in the NHL, but it's going to take time for him to grow. And I don't think, if you want to keep Matthews, I don't think you have that time to wait on that. So, well, looking forward here, obviously we have the first pick, which is going to be a happy day in Leaf land as long as we take McKenna, because I think that if we don't, there might be riots in the streets that day. We'll hopefully have picked a head coach by, mid-June, hopefully before the draft, ideally, so we can understand what we're getting into going into this year. And then free agency opens up July 1. There are players that the Leafs could go after. Like John Carlson would be an interesting piece to add. And I know that the Leafs blue line and team in general is the slowest and oldest in the league right now, but you got to do something. Like, we can't just keep depending on the same guys to pull us out of and to fix the problems, because it clearly hasn't been working. And if the Leafs suck again next year, someone better come after Keith Pelly, because God, man, I don't know if we can keep doing this as Leaf fans. It's just, it feels like a waste. Phil Kessel never got a fair shake, but this era of the Leafs team has gotten its fair shake and has still struggled. So I don't know, but that's going to be it for this video, guys. I appreciate the likes, comments, everything that we get on TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, and we'll be back for the podcast.